When it comes to expat destinations, many Americans have never considered or maybe even heard of this small country, but Europeans have been moving here for years. In fact, it's one of Europe's fastest growing countries. More than half the population here is foreign-born. Expats are drawn to this country because it's consistently ranked as one of the safest in the world, has one of the lowest personal and corporate tax rates in all of Europe, and is an outdoor enthusiast's dream. From skiing in winter to hiking, biking, and trail running in summer, this country offers an exceptional quality of life. However, there are some downsides, which we'll talk about later in this video. Come along as we explore the small but spectacular country of Andorra.
Hi, we're Matt and Don. A few years ago, we decided we didn't want to retire, but we didn't want to put off our dreams of living abroad and traveling the world either. So in 2023, we unretired. Now we live, work, and travel from the Silver Coast of Portugal. If you are ready to rewrite the rules of life after 50, hit the subscribe button so you never miss a new video.
Now, we are actually not in Andorra right now. We're in Provence as part of a 5-week road trip. We're exploring the south of France as part of our broader travels across Europe to see where expats are moving now. You may hear the cicadas in the background. It's absolutely lovely and very hot here. We'll be sharing our upcoming series on the south of France very soon, so be sure to hit subscribe if you want to see those videos. But we did take a long weekend detour in Andorra, and this country really surprised us.
So Andorra sits on the border between Spain and France, and it's a little 181 square mile country, which makes it about the size of Washington, D.C., and it's the 16th smallest country in the world.
Now, the first thing that really surprised us about Andorra is how modern it felt. Everywhere we went in the country, everything was clean and polished, and really the whole country felt like a very upscale ski village because, well, essentially that's what it is.
In the early 20th century, there were only about 5,000 or 6,000 people who lived in the country of Andorra, and it wasn't until after World War II that it began to really invest in tourism. And you'll see in the 50s and 60s, there was the beginning of people from France and Spain coming to Andorra to take advantage of duty-free shopping. In the 70s and 80s, ski resorts were built to attract more tourism. In the 90s and 2000s, Andorra experienced a construction boom with new housing as well as investment in infrastructure, including roads and hotels and shopping. Today, Andorra has 89,000 residents and welcomes 8 to 9 million visitors a year.
Although Andorra sits between Spain and France, culturally it leans strongly Catalan. That's because although Andorra has maintained its own political identity since the 1200s, it has been culturally Catalan for more than 1,000 years. In fact, Catalan, not Spanish or French, is the official language of Andorra. There are two main reasons people visit Andorra: shopping and outdoors.
Well, first is shopping, and Andorra offers incredible shopping, but it's duty-free shopping, and the sales tax is much, much lower than you'd experience in most other European countries. We stayed in the capital, Andorra La Vella, which honestly felt a bit like staying inside an outdoor mall. Between the shopping and the restaurants and the bright lights, part of it felt a little Vegas-y, but it is also very clean and safe and modern.
Now, we weren't interested in shopping on this trip. We were anxious to get out and explore the rest of the country, and that is where Andorra really impressed us.
Well, if you're a skier, Andorra is a serious destination. Skiing helped transform Andorra from an isolated mountain country to a major tourism destination. Today it has roughly 300 ski runs as well as the largest ski resort in all of the Pyrenees.
Now, we were here in June, but there were still plenty of outdoor enthusiasts enjoying the country. Road biking and mountain biking are very popular here in the summer months. We decided to take advantage of another one of Andorra's outdoor draws, hiking.
We started at the Mirador Broc del Ker, which is an incredible lookout that sits 500 meters above the valley below, and it's transparent floors. You can look down, the equivalent of a 150-story building if you are looking down. It really is breathtaking to be on that lookout.
At the end of the platform sits a sculpture known as the Ponderer. The figure isn't meant to represent anyone in particular. Instead, it's an invitation to stop, sit with your thoughts, and take in the scale of the Pyrenees. The views from here were stunning, but it was nothing compared to our next adventure.
First, though, we stopped for lunch, and if you ever find yourself in Andorra, we highly recommend going to a restaurant called Neu, N-E-U, and we had, I think, probably our best meal in Andorra.
Yeah.
So it had, we had acorn-fed Iberian ham that came with bread that had Parmesan and tomato on it. That was so good. And this dish that was, again, bread with cheese. Provolone, what kind of cheese was it?
It's provolone.
Provolone cheese that was melted, and that was fantastic. Again, if you're gonna find yourself in Andorra, this is a good place to eat lunch.
Now, after a great meal, we were off to our next adventure. Now, before we get to that, just a quick reminder that we do have a free weekly email newsletter all about living, working, and traveling abroad after 50. We include many resources in that newsletter that never make it to our YouTube channel or even our Instagram account. You can use this QR code to sign up. For our next stop, we headed to Andorra's famous Mirador Solar de Tristana, a mountaintop observation deck with a giant sundial. Getting there, however, would be an adventure.
And what an adventure. We started with a gondola ride that was about 10 minutes long to get up to a midway point, and from there we took a 15-minute chairlift ride up to the top. Now you can choose to hike up the mountain instead, which several people did, but we opted for the chairlift.
Now, believe it or not, this was actually my first time in a chairlift ever. As Matt says, we're really more sea-level people. When we arrived at the top, there was a hike up the mountain to reach the sundial. The hike was steeper than we expected, and I didn't have the best shoes, so Matt climbed up to the top while I enjoyed the views.
The sundial is 2,700 meters, or about 8,850 feet up, about the same height as Half Dome in Yosemite. And you can definitely feel that altitude when you're hiking up to the sundial.
Also, I'm on the border of France and Andorra here at the pathway that goes up to the sundial. France, you can see that way. Andorra, you can see this way. All in all, it's a pretty spectacular view.
The most incredible part of visiting the sundial for us was the chairlift ride back down the mountain. The views were absolutely breathtaking. After our adventure, it was time for dinner. So we are at a place named Yacht for dinner. It's a Nordic gastropub and craft brewery, and that is just way too many of my favorite things in one sentence, so we had to give it a try.
Well, if you come to Andorra, be sure to bring your appetite. I mean, we shared this sandwich, and it was even too much for the two of us. It's probably a 3-person sandwich, I think.
Yeah. Now, Andorra is an absolutely spectacular country, and as we've said many times in this video, it is especially perfect if you love the outdoors. But for expats, Andorra offers more than great views and duty-free shopping. There are some pretty compelling reasons why expats are moving here.
From a tax standpoint, Andorra offers a 10% flat personal tax rate, as well as a 10% corporate tax rate. Their value-added tax, or VAT equivalent, is just 4.5% compared to over 20% in other parts of Europe. And in Portugal, that VAT is 23.5%. Now, Andorra is consistently ranked as one of the safest countries to live in, and it provides excellent health care.
But before you pack your bags, there are some things to consider. First is accessibility. Andorra is not necessarily an easy country to reach. There is a small airport just over the border in Spain, but most people fly in and out of either Barcelona or Toulouse. Now, that's about a 3-hour drive into Andorra, and that last hour up the hill is a windy mountain road. Another thing to be aware of is that, like a lot of places in Europe, Andorra is experiencing a housing crisis. That means that inventory is down and prices are up. To purchase an apartment in Andorra is going to start from around 4,500 euros per square meter up to about 8,000 euros per square meter in prime areas and luxury developments. You can rent a one-bedroom here between 1,100 and 1,800 euros per month. If you want to rent right in the city center, rents are going to start closer to about 2,000 euros per month.
If you decide that Andorra is the place for you, there are a couple of visa pathways available. Andorra has some of the highest income requirements for visa in all of Europe. So first, Andorra does offer a passive income visa. It does require that the primary person who's coming in has an income, passive income of 55,000 euros per year. And for each additional family member, it's an additional 18,000 euros per person.
Now, Andorra also offers a digital nomad residency program for remote workers and online business owners who have income coming in from outside the country. To qualify, you'll generally need to show an income of at least 4,100 euros per month, maintain private health insurance, and secure housing in Andorra. The permit is renewable as long as you continue to meet the requirements.
Now, both of these visas actually create a pathway for citizenship, but Andorra has one of the longest residency requirements before you can apply for citizenship, and here it is 20 years. Also, each visa only requires that you are in Andorra for 90 days a year. However, in order to take advantage of the tax in Andorra, you need to be a tax resident, which requires 183 days per year. Now, Andorra has a tax treaty with the United Kingdom, but it does not have a tax treaty with the United States. So as always, consult with a tax professional about your personal situation.
Now, something we should mention about Andorra for all of our Schengen shufflers is that Andorra is not part of the EU, although it does use the euro as its currency, and it's not a Schengen country. However, it is not a country that you can go to the way that you can go to Montenegro or a place like Albania as part of the Schengen shuffle. Part of the reason for that is that they don't do any passport control at the border. There may be a way to technically prove that you were there through hotel receipts or something like that, but it's really not recommended.
Well, so those are the facts. But Dawn, how do you feel? Could you see yourself living in Andorra?
Well, first of all, this is a stunning country. It is very clean and modern. It reminded me a lot of one of our other favorites, which is Slovenia. We had a chance to talk to a local there who was from Barcelona and had moved to Andorra 9 years ago. And he said, I just could never go back. It is so wonderful to live here. Everything is clean and safe and modern. He did want us to know that he was still rooting for the Barcelona football team, though. I think that for me personally, as beautiful as this country is, it's just too isolated. Being 3 hours from a major airport would be a problem for our travels. But also, we have family back in the U.S. And if we had to go back to the U.S. suddenly and it's winter and it's a 3-hour drive, I just don't think that would work for us. But I will give the country absolutely rave reviews as a place to visit. We have a lot of people who watch our channel who live in France and Spain and Portugal and are always asking us about road trips to take. I think this would be an excellent road trip. It's just a beautiful country and we really loved it. But what about you? Could you live there?
Well, it is stunning, right? It is an incredibly stunning place. So obviously we were there in summer. We're not skiers, and so we're not going to go there in the winter. But it sort of reminded me, if you were to be in Vella or Park City, from a ski resort or a ski town, it has that sort of vibe through the whole country. That being said, the difference is, in those resort cities, you're much closer to a major city, and they even have airports to Vale. Mm-hmm. But here, you are completely separated. So it's stunningly beautiful. I think if you are a person who did not want to travel, mm-hmm. if you were happy just skiing and hanging out in Andorra, this could be a great, great place. But the challenge for somebody who wants to travel or who needs to travel is just accessibility. And for us, at least in this stage of our life, that is really not of interest to us. But it is beautiful, man.
Yeah, it is a stunning country. Those are our thoughts. But as always, we would love to hear from you. Would you live in Andorra? Tell us why or why not in the comments below. And if you want to explore more expat destinations in Europe, check out this playlist.